Morning, parents. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas holidays and that you're staying warm through this cold spell. Happy New Year. I hope 2020 has been good to you so far. I just want to start by saying I'm happy to be back. The kids had such an amazing week last week and they've had such a great week this week. I know that it's been cold, so a lot of students have been absent, and that's totally understandable. We altered the plans for this week so that the children wouldn't miss too much, because I've been missing between 10 and 14 kids each day. So there's no point teaching a new concept if that many students are missing. So this week was a fun week in that I got to spend a lot more time with each student, working with them individually, which was great. So what I'm gonna do is talk about the focus bins we did last week, the focus bins we did this week, some of the new things we've introduced in the classroom, and then some of the books we're reading and the topics that we're going to go into. So it might be a little bit of a longer video in lieu of not having one last week. And then parents, of course, all my videos are still on YouTube if you want to look back at previous games or previous learning tasks that if you've forgotten or you want to review. So those are still posted and they'll always remain posted. So last week we worked on the letter O. It was a nice and easy letter for the kids, so it was a great one to come back to. We looked at how to properly form it. Our uppercase letters are always big, so they start at the top and go all the way to the bottom. And then we looked at the lowercase o, so it stays below the dotted line. Now the students understand that O is a tricky letter and that it has 3 different sounds: O, ah, and oo. And most of the time, oo is a double O, unless there's tricky cases like the word to. It's just like I'm going to the mall, T-O. But that'll come in time for the students. So that's what we talked about when we looked at our letter O. And of course we did our green practice books with the letter O in them. I'm sorry, we didn't send out the homework last Friday, but we'll send O and P this Friday. And that's not a big deal, but if you could get them done by next week or the following week, that's why there's 2 pages in each book. It's just we didn't manage to get these out. And to be honest, letter O is so easy to form, so I don't think the next extra practice is even necessary, to be honest. So I may not send that home, but definitely letter P, which was our letter of the week this week, will be in their homework journals to work on this weekend. With P, we talked about our formation, so we always go down the slide from top to bottom, and we add a half circle from the top to the dotted middle line. And then lowercase p, and this is kind of a tricky thing that the students are learning, is that lowercase p is a letter that falls, and we've talked about this lots, parents, so it falls below the line. But I find that when students are writing in their books, sometimes they forget that it drops below the lines when there are no lines. So that's something we're going to keep working on with the students and reminding them. And then again, a half circle. So that's the letter P. We talked about different types of P words. Now it's important, parents, if you are playing the sound games that I've taught you with your kids at home, being careful with the P versus the B, because a lot of students mix up the B and P sounds and formations. Then we also looked at this week, we started a new routine. Now in the morning, so as you know, before Christmas, the kids would come in and they'd either have a building task at carpet, or they would draw in their journals. And it was just 10 minutes as kids roll in, because everyone rolls in kind of at different times. It was an opportunity for the students to sit together, work on their drawing, socialize, and it was just for the beginning of class. Well, we've changed that now, parents. Now the routine is this. The children come in the morning, they put their coats and hang up their backpacks, they put everything in their backpacks, then they change out their home reading book. So every student was given a home reading baggie with a note in it, and that note is really important, parents. I'd really appreciate if you'd read it. This tells you about our home reading kickoff, why we do it, the importance of it. We looked at Lucy Calkins and Mem Fox and some of their strategies when it comes to home reading. So if you flip over the sheet I gave you at the back, there's a list of activities that you can do with your students to support their literacy development as you read together. So I'll just explain it quickly though. What the students need to do is they take a home reading book. Some of them are leveled, some of them are not, and it's not about the levels. These are just more simple books, which is why we choose from the home reading area, not the books at the back of my classroom. So every day they take home a home reading book. The expectation is that they read it at home with mom, dad, older sister, brother, grandma, grandpa, whoever is around. Even on their own would be great for those days that are busy. If an adult can't help them, no problem. So you read that book, work on some of the strategy, you implement some of the strategies I've given you, and then the kids come back in the morning, they switch out and get a new book, put it in their backpack, and then after they've switched out their home reading book, they come into the classroom and they have a morning message. Now, morning message is a great strategy. It's been a strategy that's been around forever. Miriam Traherne used it in the 90s, and there's so many things involved in a morning message that are important for literacy development, which is why we use it in the classroom. And of course, it's always hard when you introduce something new to the students, but in time they'll get better and it becomes so routine that it becomes easy. So what the students do is they come in, they sit, they open up their journal, and they have to write out the morning message that's on the board. So for example, today says, good morning. Today we are going to go to music. And then we always put the date on it, and we've talked about how we've shortened the word like a nickname almost, so it's Jan 16. This teaches the kids a lot of important concepts around print, around writing, around reading, and then we use it in the morning to teach literacy. So for example, I'd get the students to come up and I'd say to them, can you circle the letter that starts with the letter or that makes the sound So they'd have to come up and circle, for example, the N. Or I'd say, can you come up and circle, and I would just give them a letter, the letter E. Or can you put an underline on the period? Can you find me an uppercase letter? And so on, parents. And this will help teach them the concepts of print. So we start with an uppercase, we end with a period. We also will learn sight words through this, like the. Our first sight word that we've been talking about is the. So that if I have the in my morning message, the kids will circle it in their journals, or they'll come up and circle it on the board for me. But this is why we implement the morning message. A big thing that we've continued to talk about is finger spaces. So we're helping students to understand that we leave finger spaces between words, not letters. And words, again, letters make up words and words make up sentences. So that's kind of what we're doing with our morning message. So the students copy it, and then we do an interactive activity where they can come up and be involved in it. What else can I tell you about morning message? So students are using finger spaces, and then for some students we introduce popsicle sticks, and it's just more that concrete reminder of what a finger space is. So some students are more comfortable using a popsicle, some kids are more comfortable using a finger, and some can just eyeball it. So those are what we're working on right now in class. So I'll show you some of the journals. For example, of course we add in supports as the students need them. If they need whiteboards, for example, because they're still struggling with that horizontal translation, so that idea of looking up, keeping an image in your head and then looking down. If they're struggling with it, we give them a board so it's right in front of them and they don't have to look up and then look down from such a distance. Or we'll give them printing lines, or we'll support them with some of their letters, or we'll sit in with them, we give them timers. Lots of strategies are being used to support your children through this kind of activity. So let's take a look. This is, for example, one of the journals the students just finishing this morning. But this is one of the journal messages from yesterday. So good morning. Today we are one of the coldest places. So as you can see, she ended it with a period. She circled the sight word the. She started with an uppercase on these two, obviously, and then on the beginning of the sentence. And then here's another student. But this student, we gave him or her lines yesterday to support her. So these are some examples of our morning journals and the reasons behind doing it. Then we had our focus bins last week. So our 4 focus bins last week were the following. So 1, we had write the room. Now parents, the students noticed that, I don't know if you did, we have progressed from boxes. So letters that are tall, small, and letters that fall, we still discuss it every day. But now we no longer have the boxes to aid the students, we have dotted lines. And what we did for the students is added the dotted lines to the word cards around the room, so they still had that visual support. We're not leaving them without aids just yet. So they honestly did a fantastic job. I was so impressed with how well they transitioned from the boxes into the dotted line, which is wonderful. So they had their winter words. Then they had a reflection piece. Now parents, before Christmas I talked to you about, and a lot of you demo, I find that our students are doing fantastic, of course, but I found that their drawings were lacking detail, or maybe lacking a little bit of creativity. So on this second half of the year, we're really gonna focus on reflecting, adding detail to our pictures, because that's a very important aspect of learning. So what they had to do is they had to draw, color, and add as many details as they could into a picture that depicted what their favorite part of Christmas was. Now, not only is this important for fine motor occupational therapy skills, but it's important for their verbal languages, being able to sit together at a table with the support of either myself or Mrs. Zapps or Mrs. Nibs, and to have a discussion about what the best part of their Christmas was. It builds vocabulary, it builds empathy, it helps the students relate to one another. So, and also to talk about differences, what their Christmas, everyone's Christmas obviously at home looks different. So these were some examples of the students. My favorite part of Christmas break was playing with my new Nerf gun, but you can see the details. My favorite part of Christmas break was getting a lip balm from Santa. So these were some examples. Some of the students wrote about drew pictures about trips. It depended on what they did. Another focus bin was what they did with me, and of course this one was working on their writing, their sounding out, their letters. It actually had some OT in it because it was drawing, cutting. The students created 2020 goals. Now, I didn't call it New Year's resolutions because for students that's a very hard concept to understand, or not for students, for 5-year-olds. So we talked about it being 2020 goals, and when we start a new year, we set goals for ourselves. So we discussed them. You can see them on the doors. Some of the things the students said, sorry. So then they sat down together with me. They made their party ads. They wrote 2020. And then each student individually, one-on-one, worked with me to talk about their goals and to write it. So they had that one-on-one time with me, and then it was more individualized. It wasn't all the same thing. The kids weren't all saying, oh, I want to learn to ride a bike, or I want to learn how to cook food, whatever it may have been. That was mine. That might not happen this year, though. So anyways, this student said, Happy New Year. In 2020, I want to learn how to ride a 2-wheeler scooter. And this one said, I want to be better at building. Now, these were very authentic, as you can see, and very relatable to those individual students. Some of them chose goals at school, some of them chose goals at home, some of them chose sports goals. So it was really great to see that the students were looking forward to specific things. Sorry, they might be at my door coming in. Nope, not yet. 2 more minutes. Okay. And then parents, what else did we work on last week? Another focus bin we had last week was, my video is going to get cut off, but we'll do a part 2 right now.